Multiple edited files tied to her login. So, was she framed or involved somehow?
They're lying. Every document they just showed you is forged. The room freezes. I'm standing on a stage, bright lights in my face, my parents just feet away holding up papers that claim my $3 million penthouse legally belongs to them. Cameras are rolling. An audience is watching this unfold like it's entertainment. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My mother doesn't even look at me as she speaks into the mic, calmly explaining how I transferred ownership willingly. My father nods, backing her up like I'm not even there, like I didn't spend years paying for that place alone. And then someone in the crowd stands up. Not security, not the host, a stranger. He raises his voice loud enough to cut through everything. I can prove those signatures were altered. Every head turns toward him, including mine. The host half stands from his chair, unsure whether to cut the mic or let it play out. The audience shifts, murmurs, spreading in waves, phones already lifting to record. My parents don't turn right away, but I do. The man isn't dressed like anyone important. No suit, no badge. Just a dark jacket, one hand raised slightly like he's asking permission that no one gave him. But his voice, steady, certain, doesn't match the hesitation in the room. My mother finally looks at him, her expression tightening for just a second before she smooths it out again. "I'm sorry," she says into the microphone, controlled, polite. "And you are?" He doesn't answer her. His eyes stay on me. That's what makes my chest tighten. Not what he said, but how he said it. Like he wasn't guessing, like he already knew. Because I've been trying to say the same thing for the past 10 minutes and no one listened. Not the host, not the audience, not even the legal consultant sitting off stage flipping through those documents like they were already settled fact. Those papers, my supposed transfer agreement, they appeared 2 weeks ago. Out of nowhere, filed, stamped, and suddenly real. My parents claimed I signed everything over after family discussions that never happened. And standing here now, under stage lights, they sound calm, reasonable, practiced. While I sound like I'm panicking, my father finally steps forward, placing a hand lightly on my shoulder, just enough pressure to look supportive, not enough to comfort. "This isn't the place for interruptions," he says, looking toward security. But the stranger takes a step closer to the stage instead, and then he says, clearly, "I've seen the original file history." My father's hand tightens, just slightly, but I feel it. And for the first time tonight, he looks unsure. My father's grip doesn't loosen, and that's the first crack. Up until now, everything about him has been controlled, measured, the calm, reasonable parent explaining things to an audience that already leaned in his favor. But that single reaction, tightening his hand when the stranger mentioned file history, it doesn't match the performance. "Security," my father repeats, sharper this time, not even looking at me anymore. "Please escort him out." 2 staff members hesitate near the aisle, unsure. The host glances between them, then at the stranger, clearly weighing whether this is about to become something bigger than a segment, because it already has. "Wait," I say, my voice cutting in before they can move. It comes out steadier than I expect, stronger than anything I've managed to say so far. The entire room shifts again, attention snapping back to me. "If he's lying," I continue, turning toward my parents, "then it won't matter if he stays." My mother's smile flickers, just for a second. That's all I need to see. The stranger steps closer now, near the edge of the stage. Close enough that I can actually see his face clearly for the first time. Late 30s, maybe early 40s, focused, not nervous, not performing, prepared. "I don't need much time," he says, "just access to one thing." The legal consultant offstage finally speaks up. "And what exactly do you think you're going to prove here?" The stranger doesn't even glance at him. Instead, he looks directly at the large screen behind us, the one that's been displaying those documents, my supposed signature stamped across every page like a verdict. Those files didn't start the way they look now, he says. They were edited multiple times after she supposedly signed them. A ripple moves through the audience, quieter this time, more focused. My father finally steps away from me, positioning himself slightly in front, like he's blocking something. That's a serious accusation, he says, voice controlled again, but tighter. Do you have any actual evidence, or are you just trying to disrupt? I have the access logs. The words land clean, heavy, and for the first time, my mother stops smiling completely. I feel it before I even process it, the shift, because if what he's saying is true, then those documents didn't just appear out of nowhere. They were built, changed, rewritten, and somehow still tied to me. The host leans forward slowly. Access logs? He repeats. The stranger nods once. Every modification, every timestamp, every user. Silence. Then my father exhales low, controlled, and says something that doesn't match anything he's said tonight. That's confidential, not incorrect, not impossible. Confidential. And suddenly, the entire room feels different because that's not a denial. That's fear. The stranger reaches into his jacket, pulling out a small flash drive. I already copied them. Security stops moving. No one interrupts. And my father doesn't say a word. The host slowly turns toward the production crew. Put it on the screen. The screen flickers and suddenly everything feels exposed. The production crew hesitates for half a second, like they're crossing a line they can't uncross. Then the display behind us goes black and reloads. A file directory appears. Not polished documents. Not clean signatures. RAV data. Timestamps. File names. Version histories. The audience leans forward as one. That's not verified, my father says quickly, stepping toward the host now. You can't just display random. Zoom in. The stranger interrupts. And they do. A single file expands on screen, the same transfer document my parents held up minutes ago. My name sits at the bottom, signature clean and confident. But now there's something else. A timeline. Created 8:14 p.m. Modified 11:52 p.m. Modified again 2:03 a.m. Modified again 2:17 a.m. A quiet murmur spreads through the room, because even without context, it doesn't look right. I feel my pulse in my throat. I wasn't even awake at those times, I say, more to myself than anyone else. The stranger nods slightly, like he expected that. Check the user access, he says. The cursor moves again. A new column appears beside the timestamp. User, L. Moreno. My stomach drops. Of course it does. My name again. My account. Exactly what my parents have been saying this entire time. My mother exhales softly into the mic, almost relieved. There it is, she says. Thank you for clearing that up. A few people in the audience nod. It looks simple again, clean, logical. Too clean. Keep going, the stranger says, his voice sharper now. The technician hesitates, then scrolls. Another layer opens. Access source, internal override. The room goes still. The legal consultant straightens in his seat. That shouldn't be visible, he mutters. Exactly, the stranger replies. My father steps forward again, faster this time. Turn that off, now. But no one moves. Because the screen updates again, a secondary log expands beneath the first smaller text, more detailed. Terminal ID, authorization level, and then a location tag, Executive Office Terminal 3. The words sit there, unmoving, heavy. My eyes move slowly from the screen to my father. Because there are only a few executive offices in the entire building, and only one of them belongs to him. No, my mother says immediately, too quickly. That doesn't mean anything. That could be cross-reference the access credentials. The stranger cuts in. The technician swallows but follows through. Another click. Another reveal. Authorization key, V. Hale. The room doesn't murmur this time. It goes completely silent. My father doesn't speak, doesn't move, doesn't even try to interrupt. Because for the first time, there's nothing clean left to explain. I feel something shift inside me. Not relief, not yet, but something solid. Because this isn't just doubt anymore. This is proof that something was done. And it wasn't me. The host slowly lowers his notes, staring at the screen. Is that your login? He asks, voice quieter now. My father finally looks up. And when he does, he's not looking at the host. He's looking at the stranger, like he's trying to figure out something that wasn't supposed to happen. The stranger takes one step closer to the stage and says, "This isn't the only file." The air in the room tightens like something is about to snap. My father finally moves, but not toward me, toward the edge of the stage. "Stop this," he says, low enough that it almost doesn't carry, but the microphone still catches it. "You've made your point." But the stranger doesn't stop. In fact, he looks more certain now. "This wasn't one document," he says, turning slightly so the entire audience can hear him clearly. "This was a pattern." The word lands harder than anything else so far. Pattern, because one mistake can be explained. A system can glitch. A signature can be questioned. But a pattern? That means intent. Open the folder labeled Archive. The stranger instructs. The technician hesitates again, then clicks. A new list floods the screen. File after file after file. Different names, different dates, different properties, but the same structure, the same type of transfer agreements, the same late-night modifications, the same internal override tags. A quiet gasp ripples through the audience. I feel my chest tighten as I step closer, staring up at the screen. Because this isn't just about me anymore. These are other properties, the stranger continues. Other ownership transfers processed the same way. My mother shakes her head immediately. "No! This is completely unrelated." "Then why are the edits identical?" he cuts in. No one answers. The technician clicks into one of the files. Another timeline appears. Another set of modifications. Another override. Another executive terminal. The same one. My father's. And then another file opens. And another, each one stacking on top of the last until it becomes impossible to see it as coincident. I feel something cold settle into place, because now I understand what he meant earlier. They didn't just need me to sign something. They needed me to exist in it, to be part of the system, a name that made everything look clean. My father finally speaks again, but it's different now. Not controlled, not calm. "You don't understand what you're looking at," he says sharply. "Those are internal revisions, standard process." "Then say that under oath," the stranger replies instantly. Silence. Heavy, final, because that's not a stage anymore. That's a courtroom. And everyone in the room knows the difference. The host slowly stands now, no longer pretending this is just a segment. "Is there any legitimate explanation for why your credentials are attached to multiple altered property transfers?" he asks. My father doesn't answer right away. My mother looks at him, really looks at him this time. And for the first time, there's doubt in her face too. I swallow, my voice quieter now, but steady. "How many?" I ask. No one responds. So I look at the screen again, at the list, at the dates stretching back further than I expected. Further than just the past few weeks, Months, maybe longer. The stranger exhales slowly. Enough, he says, that this doesn't end here. My father closes his eyes for a brief second, and when he opens them, the control is gone. Replaced by something sharper, colder, not denial, not even fear, calculation. He steps toward the microphone and says quietly, "Then I guess we're done pretending." The shift is immediate. No more polished tone, no more careful phrasing. My father straightens slightly, adjusting his sleeve like he's stepping into a different version of himself, not the composed parent, not the reasonable speaker, something colder. "You want the truth?" he says into the microphone, voice steady again but stripped of warmth. "Fine." The room doesn't move. No one interrupts. Because whatever this is now, it's not part of the show anymore. It wasn't fraud, he continues, it was correction. A murmur breaks out, confused, uneasy. "Those properties," he gestures vaguely toward the screen, "were mishandled, misallocated. I fixed them efficiently." I feel my stomach twist. "By putting them in your name?" I ask. His eyes flick to me. Brief, sharp, by putting them where they wouldn't be lost. "And me?" My voice tightens. "What was I for?" That's the first time he hesitates. Just a fraction, but it's enough. "A buffer," the stranger says before he can answer. "Someone clean, someone meticulous, someone no one would question." The word hangs there. Buffer. My mother takes a step back now, her composure finally cracking. "Victor, tell me that's not what this is." He doesn't look at her because he doesn't need to. The silence answers for him, and that's when everything collapses. Within hours, the footage is everywhere. Not edited, not spun. Ralph. The logs, the files, his words. By the next morning, investigators are already involved. The company distances itself immediately, releasing statements, freezing accounts, opening internal reviews. Victor Hale is escorted out of his office before noon. Not dramatically, not loudly, just gone. The investigation stretches for weeks, then months, and the full picture comes out exactly the way the stranger said it would. Multiple properties, multiple forged transfers. A system built quietly over time using people like me to make it all look legitimate. Every log matches. Every override traces back. Every path ends with him. My name clears, but not instantly. There are interviews, statements, legal reviews. People who believed I was guilty don't suddenly apologize. Some avoid me. Some pretend nothing happened. And some just disappear from my life entirely. I find out later who the stranger was. An external forensic analyst, brought in quietly weeks earlier after irregularities were flagged but buried before they could surface. He didn't stumble into that room. He was looking for the right moment, and he took it. I leave the company. Not because I have to, because staying feels like standing in the middle of something that already tried to erase me once. Months later, I'm sitting in a smaller office. Quieter. No stage, no cameras. Just a screen in front of me. A report open, numbers clean, unchanged. I save the file. Then I save it again, and once more, somewhere only I control. A colleague leans over casually. "You always triple save everything?" I don't look up right away. "Not everything," I say. I pause, then add, calmly. Just the things someone might try to change after I'm done. The penthouse? Still mean. Legally. Officially. Permanently. But it doesn't feel the same. Not because of what I almost lost, because of how easily it was taken. And the one thing I understand now completely is that none of it started on that stage. That was just the first time anyone actually saw it.
If he hadn't been exposed live, how many more would have lost everything without knowing?